Let's create a new project in Blender by clicking on General. So let's get rid of all this by selecting everything uh, and then press X to delete. So now we have this canvas. Let's just start with creating a UV sphere. So go to Mesh and click on Sphere, and we gotta scale this down. But first we gotta bring this up. So press G and press Z. Bring this up and scale it down. So this is gonna be our source of the fluid, and as you can see we will need another cube. So go to Mesh and select cube. So this is going to be our domain, and we want the UV sphere to be inside of our domain. So press G and Z to bring it up and scale it up, and go to wireframe mode to see that the UV sphere is inside the domain. Now let's create another cube and place it just inside the domain, and we want the fluid particles to hit or collide with this. So select the UV sphere and go to Physics tab and click on Fluid and select the type as flow, and we'll set the flow type to liquid and flow behavior to inflow. So this is the properties that we have to set for the UV sphere, and we don't need to change any other settings for now, as this is a basic tutorial. Now select the cube and go to the Physics tab, click on Fluid, click on leave the type as domain and domain type as liquid. Okay, so go to the collider cube, give it as fluid, type as effector, leave the effector type as collision, and click the is planar checkbox. These are the basic settings that you need to start simulating the fluid. So just select the domain cube, and we have a few settings like the resolution division, which is by default set at 32. So if you increase the 32 to 64, it takes longer to render, but the quality will increase. Let's just give the end frame something like, let's say we just want the whole simulation to be 150 frames. So let's just type 150 there. So 150 frames, that would be the length of our simulation. Let's just tick on the mesh. So the uprest factor is like the resolution division into 2. Don't worry about all that for now. What we have to do is we have to bake the simulation. So as you can see, if you press the play button, you can see that we are starting to get something, but we need the actual simulation to be there, right? So for that, what we need to do is we need to bake the simulation, because otherwise the domain will show up. So we don't need the domain to show up, right? So when we render, we don't need to see the whole cube and inside of that the fluid. No, we just need the fluid hitting the cube. So for that we need to bake the data. So let me just see, change the type to modular from replay, change it to modular, and tick the is resumable checkbox, and here it says bake data first before we bake the mesh. So let me find the option where we need to bake the data. It should be up somewhere. Let me just see. So here we have baked data. So let me just bake the data, and let me just fast forward this because it will take a long time depending on what are your system configurations. Like this really depends on the hardware, the CPU of your system, because the new Mantaflow is using multi-threading. So if you have a multi-core CPU, it will use multiple threads and multiple cores. And let's just bake the mesh after this. So bake data is needed to be completed before you can bake the mesh, and once you bake the mesh, you will see that the domain is invisible. So now if you press play, you have this beautiful simulation right before you. So let me know if you need another tutorial on this, or how to do it with a beer bottle. Let me know in the comments if you need to know how to make a beer bottle. That's it for this tutorial, guys. I will see you in the next one. Peace.